Hello, my name is Nick Mealy. You may know me as SideView or Mad Scientist if you spend a lot of time online at Slack or anything. I also was an early employee at Splunk. I was the principal user interface developer at Splunk from 2005 to 2010, but no one called me that then. My official title was Mad Scientist, which is incidentally why that's my screen name. Giving a talk here today about the history of the Splunk UI, specifically these super early versions that no one ever talks about or sees. You can't even get these from releases anymore. It's 1.0, 2.0, and 3.4 that I'll be walking through today. I was the lead UI developer for all three of these releases. And we released a lot back in the early days. We actually had 1.5 alphas in 2005, and then we had 4 public betas, as well as a couple of private betas that were probably best not to mention. And then 1.0 GA in like August of 2015. So between March of 2015 when I started and August 2015, I'm pretty sure, when we released this 1.0, we had released like 5 rewrites of the entire product or something completely insane. So we were all pretty frazzled. But what people don't remember, in fact, they referred to it in the keynote today, 1.0, and they said back when Splunk was just a wall of text, which really isn't fair. It was really already like a pretty amazing product. So I'm going to walk through some of the features right away. Notice if I mouse over things, I can click on anything I like, and it will add it as a search term. I can add multiple terms. I can do Control-Alt-Click to say I want to exclude a term. If I want to use the type ahead interface, I have type ahead right here. So you have the histogram here. You can see we had events over time. We didn't call it the histogram until about 2.0. So all of this like launched right away, right at the beginning. You could zoom in and zoom out. It was already a pretty. In 2005, this was a very overwhelming interface to people. They would actually kind of freak out and come back and say, I can't believe you made everything clickable. Like there's nothing on the page that doesn't do something. This was a different era. Ajax wasn't particularly, it was incredibly popular, but hardly anyone had actually gotten around to doing it. And the parts of the guts of it weren't actually reliable. So this is all using client-side XSLT, which is a bit of a horrifying fact that no one wants to remember about this. Let me show you one more thing before I leave 1.0, and that is this stuff that we did hacking the CSS DOM. Everyone's pretty familiar with, any modern JavaScript application for 20 years has known how to manipulate the document of the page, the HTML document. You can also manipulate the CSS document. No one does that. It's sort of a dark art, but this product did it a lot. How many core things were already there. The core like KV stuff was not there. There's no reporting of any kind. There's no like statistical grouping. The back button didn't work. There's lots of sort of little things that aren't too great. No UDP inputs, no TCP, nothing. Like no forwarding, no distributed search. So I'm going to move on. Oh, where did it go? There is a way to invert the skin in here, but I'm going to move on to 2.0 because I can't seem to find it right now. Ta-da! 2.0. This is like a whole bunch of releases later. This is the first release that actually had distributed search, and it had a form of forwarding, although you wouldn't recognize it. And neither of them were particularly good. But this was 2.0.15, so this is after it had become somewhat stable. So 2.0, 2.0. Oh, shoot. I meant to show like the daytime XML that's exactly the same from 1.0. And I'll go back if we have time at the end. I wanted to show Splunk D.XML and the reconfigurable input pipelines. You could tear apart the entire indexing pipeline in 1.0 and 2.0 and reconfigure it and write your own modules and stuff them in the middle and like reorder the processors and cause all manner of horrible bugs that support would then have to deal with. It was pretty fun. 2.0 was a fun release. We kept we didn't lose any features. It looks broadly similar. Show events by time is your old histogram. We kind of added a lot of polish. And you can probably see some sub-histograms here again. If I light that up, you see where they're from. The invert skin is up in preferences. So I can set my theme to black. What happened here was kind of fun. It's worth telling the story. Me and one other person designed the look and feel of Splunk 2.0, mostly at like 2 in the morning after our day jobs. And in the end, we had this final comp, and we showed it to a lot of people, and everyone liked the absolute inverted copy, just pressing, Command-Shift-I in Photoshop. So we realized we had an approved comp that was black text on white background, and we have the comp that everyone liked that was white text on black background. So we did an end run and basically shipped both of them with a flip button, so that the developers could have the one they wanted and the corporate people could have the one they expected to see from the screenshots. So that stayed in there for through the whole 3.0 through 3.4 series, and it died unfortunately in 4.0. Actually, this was out of sequence. I forgot to do something back from 1.0. We launched in 1.0 with an integration with what was not at this time called Splunk Base, but it was what Splunk Base became. And that's this little lookup at splunk.com link. And I can click this, and it will say, look up this event at splunk.com. And it would post the event, and it would display it publicly on splunk.com. And if someone else had posted the same, what you would call punked today, if someone had posted the same raw structure, there would be a page dedicated to everyone who had ever posted the event and a little forum about what is this event? Obviously things didn't work out quite the way we expected. People generally got really mad about us posting them posting their events online. I'm going to send raw event. We're going to send this to extremely confused Splunk.com. And Splunk.com, or we're not. Maybe we're not today.
Or we stamped it.
Oh, I guess we're not. For some reason, on my laptop, that did in fact post to Splunk.com, and it redirected to headlamp.splunk.com. So that was in here. Splunk Base was already live for the 1.0 GA. You could launch it up there. I'm going to switch back to 2.0 and pick up where I left off. There were a few features that were in here that were a little bit crazy. So one of them was kind of my favorite. Segmentation was wildly different. You didn't have all the flexibility you have now. You didn't have phrase search even. So what you really had was major breakers, minor breakers, and that's it. You had no other control. And even just the complexity of major breakers and minor breakers can get really crazy when you had to answer a specific question about why this token didn't work in the index and why you had to use a wildcard search for it. So we developed internally, literally, I needed a group to visualize what in the hell was happening in the HTML as we're trying to build out the clickability of it. But that tool that we built for the UI group ended up useful to everyone across the whole framework to debug what the segments were. So anyway, here is, oh geez, I need better data than this. Hold on, let's find some better data. And it had the old colon syntax. I gotta tell you, this has been a lot of fun, reconstructing these old builds. Do I not have anything in internal? Oh, yeah. I can't tell you how creepy it is to use these things. Whew. So let's find a good one. A lot of IP addresses, this will work. So it'll highlight, and notice that it has this CSS DOM hacks where it actually shows everywhere on the page where that term exists, no matter where. This is the same kind of magic that the sub-histograms are doing. Notice that it's lighting up the sub-distribution in the timeline as I'm mousing over things. Again, another feature that was lost in 4.0. So, say you're trying to visualize why a particular, I don't have a good example here of why a particular token wouldn't show up, but typically username @quad would never work properly because of the major minor breaker catch-22. So you'd have to come in and do preferences, not theme, full with pyramids. In 1.0 it was just called pyramid. And you had to actually, it's in there somewhere, I just couldn't find it a moment ago, but it's called full with pyramids. You turn it on.
What the fuck?
And there you get full with pyramids. And we shipped this in every 2.0 build because it was too useful to not ship. But we had so many questions. They're like,
get that back?
what? People would be like, what did you do? What is this? What am I looking at? I'm so confused. But occasionally you'd get someone who'd be like, oh my God, wait, no, that's why those terms aren't there. That's why I can't search for username at 192.star. It's like, it just can't be done. It's not in there. It's not a token. So you'd have to break all those use cases apart into 2 wildcard searches. It was a nightmare. Until phrase search came along, it really kind of sucked. I'm probably using the wrong word. There were a lot of different features that improved those stories. But, so that's full with pyramids. Let's turn it off. Just, it's a little crazy. Again, it's nothing more than monkey work with CSS, just doing things you're really not supposed to. It's actually pretty easy to do. I literally put it in as a hack, and I checked it in. I figured I would take it out before we shipped, and Eric Swan was like, no, that thing, we're using that. Don't take that out. So once it was in, it was in. Notice there's an invert skin of basic and black. If you're the astute observer, will notice there's a 3rd skin listed in this list called Smurf. This is a fun story. I'll try and be quick. So the admin section really liked to talk about the searches as splunks. It was really trying to make splunks work as a noun and a verb. So that all the documentation was like, splunk your data and then save your splunk as a save splunk. And then you can go to your save splunks page and see your save splunks and splunk it again. And we were like, you guys have lost your mind. Dear God, stop doing this. Like, you can't turn every word on the page into Splunk. And we fought this battle. We showed them what this page was going to look like if you had saved a bunch of them. We sent screenshots around. Nothing worked. Like, no one was calling off this. So what we did, and this is me just being a jerk. I had also built this framework to try and make third-party integrators' life easier. There's no app framework. We called these builds the monolith, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. Around the age of 4.0, we started hating this thing because it was a very monolithic piece of code. There was no app framework, really. There was no, well, most of it was there, but the view side of it, the front end side of it, nothing was modular. So long story short, I put in a ton of backdoors where third-party integrators could come in and radically modify the skin and the look and feel and turn off functionality. And that left backdoors that we could use ourselves to make the Smurf skin. So we made a Smurf skin, and we used this as our vehicle to get them to abandon the Splunk as a noun and a verb. And this is the Splunk skin here. And it shipped. I mean, it shipped, but you had to know where to go. You had to go and read the thing. I meant to have a terminal up. I should bring up a terminal to show all the stuff I meant to show on the command line. But it says basically, step 1, modify this array and you can change these things. Step 2, modify this array and you can turn off the tab. Step 3, and then step 7 was like, don't read this. You're not even here. What are you looking at? Don't look at this. You're not supposed to look at this. Don't even touch it. Okay, fine. You can probably do these things. And it allowed you to set one more skin, or however many more skins you wanted to put. Typically, integrators would throw them all away and only have their skin. And then the whole thing would fold up and go away. But we left Smurf in there as one of the commented out options, so it was technically possible for someone to discover this Easter egg, and we shipped it. The skin shipped in all the 2.0 releases. So this is the Splunk assistant down here. I'm going to say some words about this, but to get it to work, I have to come out of Smurf mode. So let's go back. Actually, let's go back to the black mode. So this originally was a set of haikus that Paul and myself, Paul wrote the haikus. I had the idea, and the whole product was rebuilt to be context sensitive. So every time you did something, it knew what you had just done, and so it had a certain sense of what things you might want to do next as a new user. We had a lot with all these like control command click, drag, double click nonsense. Like no one knew how to use the product, so we were trying to make more of it discoverable. And we literally have the haikus still. So every time you would click, it would have just one little haiku, and they were beautiful little things. Paul wrote like 50 of them, and we plugged them all in and we checked them in. Everyone else hated them and thought they were too dumb, so it was immediately replaced by this text. But in Smurf mode, the choice was made that in Smurf mode, the entire Splunk assistant should just become Smurfette. And all the content should go away.
Give them 3 choices.
Yeah, none of them are good. I'm going to also, because people just showed up, I'm going to show them the pyramids again, just because. What did I have to do for pyramids? I guess I had to. This is pyramid mode. It's basically the way that you debugged your segmentation when there was only minor breakers and major breakers. Okay, where was I on here? 2.0, what else did it have? It had Splunk.Splunk, Splunk to Splunk, which was the old kind of forwarding, which don't use it, it's awful. It had ODBC inputs, it had TCP and UDP, It had distributed search. I went through the Splunk Assistant, I went through all this. It had the back button, full back button support, so you never left the page. In 1.0 and 2.0, you were always on the same page. You went to the admin section, you were in search, you were in reporting, you never left. So next up, I think I did everything for 2.0. 3.4, all this stuff is still working. I can't believe it's all still working. Yeah, I wrote this. I mean, this is a long time ago. But the 2010 is a little misleading because the 3.4 branch lived for a really long time. A lot of people were still running 3.4 in production, so the person who gave me these builds gave me the highest maintenance release of each major dot release. That's why that's weird. It's like not a 2010 product, but it looks like it. So, I guess I don't have to use internal anymore. I know, I can use the equals. All right, so 3.4 had, where did that thing go? Oh, it's still thinking. Oh, wow, right. It wasn't particularly, we thought it was fast. If you ask any of the old engineers about 3.4, they're like, yeah, it was so fast. And I'm like, no, it really wasn't. Not compared to any subsequent release, but it seemed fast to us. So this time you have clickable, draggable timeline. You have a lot more, pretty awesome, much better, frankly. Ability to drag and drop and zoom around in here. If you notice these tiny little left and right arrows, you could page around just using the timeline and actually move around quite a lot. Let me zoom in one more level where that will start to become apparent. So you can just click this and it would slide you over kind of one chunk left of where you were and one chunk right. It did some funny snapping in and zooming out. The test cases for this were a nightmare. But and you had an endless scroller. So this was the whole 3.0 release had an endless scroller for everything. And so I can come here and I can just keep pressing page down, or use my mouse wheel and it'll just keep on going, getting more. If you notice, the timeline is doing this really funny thing where there's a little cursor following you around, showing you where you are. This is from usability feedback because the endless scroller was great, but what would happen, every single user would scroll suddenly way past the thing they were trying to get to, which is frustrating because you'd be like, just click the thing you want to go to. What are you even scrolling for? But built-in suspenders, we tried to give them this little cursor thing so they would see like how far past they had blown past it. It's really dead simple, like 3 lines of JavaScript in an image. It's not like, you could have done this in 1999 or 8, I guess. Whatever. Blew people away in 2006 or 2007. And same, all that stuff is the same. I think workflow actions are in here. I think you could still send your event up to Splunk base, but we no longer just submitted it for you. We no longer just fired your data up into the. God, that was a bad idea. The UI here is actually, I think as far as the overall UI design, is the best one that we ever had. And I'm saying that as the primary developer of 4.0 and 4.1, maybe 4.2, because your field picker adds a tab up top. And the tab had a lot more, like I want to add KB up here. I'll get a tab for KB. And there's, in 4.0 we added more other functionality here, like different kinds of reports you could run. And the combination really gave you anyway, in my opinion, slightly better than the field picker now and the sidebar. The sidebar came back, and the sidebar for us had been in all the early public betas, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, beta 4, and we abandoned it in 1.0 and went to tabs. So when it came back in 4.0, for us it was kind of like, let's go back to that sidebar thing that worked so well in the betas. And now looking back, it was bonkers. We should have stuck with the tabs. They were better, but whatever, I'm crazy. I think I may have used up all my time, but I had, no? Time's okay. Try and show the command line. I'm gonna try and get another shell up here. Where? But I gotta get a shell actually. Oh, I guess I'm in it already, huh?
Right there?
Yeah, I'm right here. Right there. My tunnel's a tunnel.
Your tunnel's coming from?
Right. Where do you think your tunnel's coming from, buddy? All right. Where to first? Op Splunk. Splunk 1.0. It's hilarious. It has no notion that that there might be any prior version of itself, so it's really hard to get Splunk 1.0 to run on any box that's already running Splunk. So this is a bit of a challenge. It has to also be at Op Splunk. It lies to you and tells you it doesn't. So where am I going? I'm going to I just love that datetime.xml is datetime.xml. Like it's not really in any way different than I can find. So Carasso basically built, like, it's like he did an entire job in the first 6 months and built the typer, even though he rewrote it later and then did the search language. He did datetime.xml, Splunk.xml. It's just amazing. Amazing how much has been in there for so long. I also wanted to show Splunk.xml. Is that in here or is that in my install? Yeah. So this is fun. You could reconfigure the entire input pipeline of Splunk. This is the original architecture. You could define your own processors and you could reorder them so that as the data was processed, you could send it into anything you liked. You had to go and talk to them. None of this was documented. None of it was, I mean, you had to go and compile your code against everything. But in here, this is all the proto versions of all these processors, some of which are still alive. Way down in here was Python processor, test processor 1. Just right there. If you look at it, you'd be like, what would you say is test processor 1? Can I use it? Does it do anything useful? It's really just a stub. But it was cool. It was this open architecture. The idea of what they just did today in the GA was basically in 1.0 as something we need to do. Complex, arbitrary input side processing before it hits the index. Also, the index at this point was Berkeley DB, then owned by Sleepycat. So,
Damien.
Yes.
Was very excited about Splunk.
Oh yes. You can. I did not think that I would find it. I thought I misremembered whether it had shipped or not. And the moment when I realized retroactively, of course I'm sure I once knew, realized that it had been shipping in the entire 2.0 release, I was very happy. I was very happy that it had gone out there living. I don't think anyone ever found it. There are a lot of Easter eggs. Many of them no one ever found. I wanted to also show, with my last few moments here, if I can get back to the right window, Etsy bundles. It's kind of fun to look at. Like this is OpSplunk Etsy in 1.0. It's not particularly recognizable. There's kind of just datetime XML and a couple other things. But and here is 2.0 at 2.0. Oh, sorry. 2.0 Etsy. Ooh, Jesus. Get a rear window here. I'm sure no one can see this on the recording, but hopefully. So here you have log.cfg showing up. A couple more things. You have Etsy modules, which is where you would actually go to insert new processors. And then let me quickly show 3.0 is elsewhere. Opt. So in 3.0 there was this really creepy doppelganger. You had both Etsy bundles and Etsy apps, and there was a bit of a war in Splunk. You might think the difference is that apps have UIs, apps have front ends that you can log into, and that is not the case. Apps were just slightly different versions of bundles. Bundles were configuration bundles, and apps were, for some reason, something else. Inside, they both have default and local. So it was really baffling. When you had to debug something, you had to look in like 8 locations. You had system local, system default. You had Etsy bundles local, Etsy bundles default. You had the user directories. It was. So looking back at this, for anyone who lived through this time, is kind of like, oh God, right, bundles, oh no. At least it cracks me up. So we look inside apps. So there were these apps, but they're not apps. There was no way to go to them in the UIs, so they're pretty unrecognizable. And then 4.0 came around, and the entire company, we all agreed to blow up the monolith that we were calling it, because it was very, very difficult to maintain this code. It was very polished in a usability sense, but the whole search pipeline had to be blown up. Much of the search language actually is in 3.4. Let me show you the report builder. I'm probably going to go over time now, but it's totally worth it. The report builder in 3.0 was actually pretty good. 4.0 had a good report builder as well, and eventually people kind of forgot that it was there, unfortunately. So you can pick any field. Yeah, you flipped them. It keeps messing me up, which is fine. So I can actually do two different series right here. I can show which one I want to see. Chart options, normalize others, others. This is wrong. Um, 4.0, which I'm not going to show here, had basically the same idea. It was constantly letting you click things to build any report you wanted, but it was showing you the search language as you were going through. You can see we had a bunch of funny, we had a pipe to outlier, which was quickly abandoned. And the core bones of the search language were most of them here, except it didn't do the map producer you're familiar with, and that's not me. Eval wasn't there. Lots of crucial pieces were missing. When 4.0 came along and the search language, as we know it, really came into existence, that was a fundamental rewrite of everything. It had to color within the lines of the commands that everyone knew, but it was really a ground-up rewrite. And that was also a ground-up rewrite of the entire front end. So the entire UI went modular. The entire back end was changed out. The entire search language was changed out. That incredible breadth of what 4.0 was is why so many features got thrown off the boat. We lost the end of scroller, we lost the subhistograms, we lost the invert skin went away. With the Smurf skin with it, the Smurf skin went away with it. The invert skin came back today. I was like, I can't believe later today, I literally have to give a talk in which I was going to talk about the invert skin. How timely. Well, this was a lot of fun to put this talk together. And I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I don't know what else I was going to show on the file system, but if it was important, you can ask me about it online. Yeah. Oh, you want to see? Oh, this is. Hold on. I mean, I'll just keep going. You can stop. So Etsy apps. Where was it? So the hack. This is what third-party integrators had to do before the app framework. You want to see it?
Sure.
Python. Packages. Search. There was no OxyClean and PineSol, I don't think. Yeah, that was until 4.0. What? No. Anyway, site packages search. Search service. Oh, I'm LL. Which one?
Second forward.
Oh. What are you doing, man? It auto-completed me out here. There we go. Weird. Yeah. Where the hell is search service? Why don't I see search service? Where am I? Oh no, I have to go back to 2.0. Oh my god, there was no twisted in 3.0. Oh, this is so hard on my head. 2.
You're still on, Nick.
I am? Oh, nice. Okay, well, I was going to show you what third-party system integrators had to do in 2.0? You want to know? Yeah.
Let's see.
Right. And, I mean, we would go back and find them having spent months doing this stuff, basically hacking into the code and turning off pieces. And it was just so awful. It made me cry. I think it may have actually made me cry. So eventually we went and found, yeah, so there's Smurf. That was the big thing. You could swap out your own skin. And so the CSS was skinned out, so you had a structural CSS file and then the skin file you could alter. So that got most of